Hey guys, so there are three books that I highly recommend that you read that really go in line with our unit. So the first book is called Counting by Sevens. It is by Holly Goldberg Sloan. The second book is Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. You should recognize her name since we read a few poems by her at the beginning of the school year. The last book is called Lion, A Long Way Home, and it's by Saroo Brierley, and this is a young reader's edition of this text. So I'm going to go over the first text with you, just a little preview, and then I'll do the same for the next text. I'm just going to set a timer for 3 minutes and read 3 minutes of each one. Okay, here we go. 3 minutes on the clock. First text, Counting by Sevens. Willow Chance. A genius shoots at something no one else can see and hits it. We sit together outside the Foster's Freeze at a sea green metal picnic table, all four of us. We eat soft ice cream which has been plunged into a vat of liquid chocolate that then hardens into a crispy shell. I don't tell anyone that what makes this work is wax, or to be more accurate, edible, food-grade paraffin wax. As the chocolate cools, it holds the vanilla goodness prisoner. Our job is to set it free. Ordinarily, I don't even eat ice cream cones, and if I do, I obsess in such a precise way as to prevent even a drop of disorder, but not today. I'm in a public space. I'm not even spying, and my ice cream cone is a big, drippy mess. I'm right now someone that other people might find interesting to observe. Why? Well, first of all, I'm speaking Vietnamese, which is not my native tongue. I really like that expression because in general, I think people don't give this contracting muscle credit for how much work it does. So thank you, tongue. Sitting here, shaded by the afternoon sun, I'm using my Vietnamese whenever I can, which turns out to be often. I'm talking to my new friend, May, but even her always surly and scary, because he's older big brother, Quang Ha, says a few words to me in their now only semi-secret language. Del Duke, who brought us here in his car, is quiet. He does not speak Vietnamese. I do not like to exclude people. I'm the one who is always excluded, so I know how that feels. But I'm okay with Mr. Duke being an observer. He's a school counselor, and listening is a big part of counseling, or at least it should be. May does the lion's share of the speaking and eating. I give her my cone once I've had enough. And all I know for certain, with the sun on our faces and the sweet ice cream holding our attention, is that this is a day that I will never forget. 17 minutes after our arrival, we are back in Del Duke's car. May wants to drive by Hagen Oaks, which is a park. Big geese live there year-round. She thinks I should see them. Because she's older than me, she falls into the trap of thinking all little kids want to stare at something like fat ducks. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate waterfowl. But in the case of Hagen Oaks Park, I'm more interested in the city's decision to plant native plants than I am in the birds. I think by the look on Del's face, I can see his eyes in the rearview mirror, that he's not very excited about either thing, but he drives by the park anyway. Quang Ha is slumped in the seat, and I'm guessing is just happy that he didn't have to take a bus anywhere. Okay, just a little note is that in this next part of the book, a police car is outside of our main character's house. Dun dun dun. Okay, so that's Counting by Sevens. The next one I wanted to show you was Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. So I'm just going to read, same thing, 3 minutes of this book and give you a little taste of what could be. Okay, 3 minutes on the clock, here we go. Name all the people you're always thinking about. People are poems. Lonnie C. Motion. Poem book. This whole book's a poem because every time I try to tell the whole story, my mind goes, be quiet. Only it's not my mind's voice, it's Miss Edna's over and over and over, be quiet. I'm not a really loud kid, I swear. I'm just me, and sometimes I maybe make a little bit of noise. If I was a grown-up, maybe Miss Edna wouldn't always be telling me to be quiet. But I'm 11, and maybe 11's just noisy. Maybe 12's quieter. But when Miss Edna's voice comes on, the ideas in my head go out like a candle, and all you see left is this little string of smoke that disappears real quick. Before I even have a chance to find out what it's trying to say. So this whole book's a poem because poetry's short, and this whole book's a poem because Miss Marcus says, write it down before it leaves your brain. I tell her about the smoke and she says, good, Lonnie, write that. Not a whole lot of people will be saying, good, Lonnie, to me. So I write the string of smoke thing down real fast. Miss Marcus says, we'll worry about line breaks later. Write fast, Lonnie, Miss Marcus says. And I'm thinking, yeah, I better write fast before Miss Edna's voice comes on and blows my candle idea out. At night, sometimes after Miss Edna goes to bed, I go up on the roof. Sometimes I sit counting the stars. Maybe one is my mama and another one is my daddy. And maybe that's why sometimes they flicker a bit. I mean, the stars flicker. Line break poem. Miss Marcus says, line breaks help us figure out what matters to the poet. Don't jumble your ideas, Miss Marcus says. Every line should count. Memory. Once when we was real little, I was sitting at the window holding my baby sister Lily on my lap. Mama was in the kitchen and Daddy must have been at work. Mama kept saying, honey, don't you drop my baby. A pigeon came flying over to the ledge and was looking at us. Lily put her hand on the glass and the pigeon tried to peck at it. Lily snatched her hand away and screamed. Not a scared scream. Just one of those laughing screams that babies who can't talk yet like to do. Mama came running out the kitchen, drying her hands on her jeans. When she saw us just sitting there, she let out a breath. Oh my Lord, she said, I thought you dropped my baby. I asked, was I ever your baby, Mama? And Mama looked at me all warm and smiley. You still are, she said. Then she went back in the kitchen. I felt safe then. Okay, so that is Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. Last preview is this book, Lion, A Long Way Home. This is Young Readers Edition. It's by Saroo Brierley. Now this one is really on point from, you know, what we're reading. Sorry. Okay, I guess I'll start at the prologue. You can read the foreword on your own if you decide to choose this book. So 3 minutes on the clock. Last one, this is Lion, A Long Way Home, Young Readers Edition. Prologue. I lay in an unbelievably soft bed, my own bed, and gazed around the room. I'd never had a bedroom of my own before. For most of my 5 or 6 years, I'd slept in a small room with my family. Then, later, I'd slept in a dormitory with lots of other children. The only time I'd slept alone was when I lived on the streets of Calcutta. I looked across at the wardrobe where I'd been shown my new clothes, warm ones for the Tasmanian climate. On the floor were boxes of pictures, picture books and toys. I still couldn't believe they were for me, and that I could look at them and play with them as I pleased. I half expected some bigger kid to come along and take them. I still wasn't used to the idea of being safe, let alone having things of my own. I was afraid of the dark, so my bedroom door was left open and a wedge of light from the hall shone on the floor, bright electric light, not a candle or a kerosene lamp. On one wall of my bedroom was a big colored picture with lots of strange writing on it, a map. One day I would understand what a map was and realize that it held the secrets of my past, where I'd come from, who I was, and who I'd left behind. But for now, I was too tired to care. I closed my eyes and slept. Remembering, Chapter 1. I had a map of India on my bedroom wall when I was growing up in Hobart. Mum, my new mother, had put it there to help me feel at home. But when I arrived in Tasmania, I didn't even know what a map was, let alone the shape of India. I had never been to school. I couldn't read or write or speak English. It was 1987, and they told me I was 6 years old. I didn't know for certain how old I was. On my official documents, my birthday was 22 May 1981, but that was a guess by the Indian authorities based on the day I had arrived at the orphanage, an ignorant, confused, lost little boy. They had guessed my age and my birth year, which I had never changed. I hadn't been able to explain much about who I was or where I'd come from. The first time I ever heard the name Calcutta was when my new mom and dad pointed to it on my map and told me that's where I came from. But they were wrong. I didn't come from Calcutta, but from somewhere much further away, and the story of how I got there was incredible. At first, Mom and Dad didn't know how I'd become lost. All they knew, all anyone knew, was that I'd been picked off the streets of Calcutta, and after attempts to find my family had failed, I had been taken to the orphanage and then put up for adoption. Happily for all of us, I was adopted by the Brierleys. Okay, guys, that is your little book tasting, and that's the end of our optimistic closure. So if you want to preview some more book tastings, they are on Schoology. And kind of the whole point of book tastings is to give you a little preview, kind of like when you get one Hershey Kiss, you kind of want more Hershey Kisses. That's kind of like what this is. And our objective is to be able to present our book talks the week of May 16th.